Hey folks, in this video we're going to look at how we can traverse a list. So in the previous video we looked basically at the construction of a linked list. We created nodes and then we had a function that added those nodes to an existing list. So given that we built a list, we need to be able to do something with it. In the previous example we basically did that by having printf manually print out different nodes. Now of course this won't always work because we have maybe the very large lists, right, which have so many elements in there we can't possibly write out enough print statements to display everything. So how in general do we display data? We display it with a traversal. The idea of a traversal is a way of visiting every single node one at a time so that you can perform some operation on it. For example, display, or maybe increment, or maybe something else. So let's take a look here. Over here I have a simple list with a variable that knows about the frontmost node, right? So I have my list over here, so I store, of course, right, 372. Okay, so let's imagine for a second that I want to print out this list. What can I do? I want to display 3, 7, and then 2. So perhaps what I can do is this. I could create a new variable, call for example iter, and this iter variable would basically start at, for example, 3. Right, I'm drawing an arrow here to represent what iter the variable knows about. So let's say initially it knows about 3. And then I can move it forward. I can move it forward so it now knows about 7. Then I can move it forward so it knows about 2. And so on. What I could basically do is have a loop where I look at every node in turn one at a time and I walk along and I just touch each of them. And then once I'm at each of them, I can do whatever I want. Okay, that's the basic idea of traversal. It's a way basically to look at every node in a list and perform some operation. So let's do the same thing as before, jump to NetBeans and try implementing a traversal in order to display all the nodes in a linked list. So here we go, we're back in NetBeans. What's the plan? The plan is to add a new function called display, which will display all of the contents of a list. So let's go over here. Let's see, what should I do? I probably want this to be a void type because I don't want to return anything. I just want to display stuff. So we'll start with void, and we'll just call it something simple like display. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. Now, what do I want to take as a parameter? I'm probably going to need the front of a list. Same thing as I had for adding to it. So I have that. Pretty simple. So how would I like this to work? I'll just scroll down for a second. What I want basically is to replace these two things, right? So rather than having these printfs, what I really want to have is something along the lines of display of list, right? And all of a sudden displays everything that I've stored in there. Okay. So that's the way I'd like it to work. So how can I implement that? Well, here I'm inside. I have basically a reference to the front of the list. A list may have many elements in it, so what we want to do is look at having something like a loop. So what type of loop would be appropriate here? I think something like a while loop might be appropriate. So let's write while front. Right, so the idea here is I don't really know how many elements are going to be in my list. If I don't know how many elements that are going to be in my list, does it really make sense to use a for loop? Probably not. Typically for loops are used when you have a defined start and a defined end. Right, here we have the start, but we do not have the end. So we just want to kind of loop, right, while we have something to work with. So in that sense, right, it makes it more effective, right, for us to use a while loop here. So I have while, and I'll do while front, right? So it'll loop while front isn't null, okay, right? Well, we haven't gotten to the end, so we'll go and visit basically everything in there. Okay, what do I do inside of here? So I want to basically display every node. So I will actually grab this over here. And then actually, I'm going to add one more line of code just to be consistent with what we talked about on the slide, which is I'm going to make a new variable. So I'm going to make a new variable that's going to be a pointer to a node. I'm going to call it iter. Iter equal front, because iter is going to be basically an arrow that I move along the front of the array. One thing somehow that I would worry about, and it's not going to be an issue here, but just to know about, is that you don't want to adjust front by itself because then you'll lose your reference to what is the first node, right? It's better if you create basically a backup of it, right? Create a second variable called iter, and that's when you'll change over time. So that's what I'm doing here. All right, so I'm going to say that my little arrow that I'm moving along the list is going to be called iter. So let's see, what do I need to do? Well, I'm looping while iter is null, that's fine. And then I'm going to go over here, right? So I want to go over here basically, and where it says list from before, I'm going to change that to iter, right? So look at the iter, leave it there. Pull out whatever information is there. All right, so that looks pretty good. The next thing I need is basically to advance iter. So I need to move it forward. Now I move it forward by basically setting it to the next value, or the next node in the list. So next obviously is this variable here, right? And I can basically update by saying this, iter equal iter next. What they're saying is iter is now the thing that goes after what iter was just looking at, right? So step me one forward in that array. Step me one forward in that list. So there we go. Now I think if we run this, we should actually get the answer we're looking for. And there we go, we see our output, right? We had 2 nodes in there, and we see both of them. Now let's actually go ahead and add one more node just to make sure that this really is working how we intend. So we'll call this node 3, and let's see. And we'll call this hello, and we'll call this 6789. Yeah, well, I guess I'll put a 0. Put in a 0, all right. So we have something like that. Okay, so that's a 3rd node. Now if I want to add to my list, right, I do something like this. I do list equal add front of n3, comma list. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and display it, and hopefully we get all 3 of our outputs. And they should be right in reverse order, right? Hello, test, and the Wonderboard. Hello, test, Wonderboard. All right, there we go. So that looks like it's working. We're now displaying every element in our list. So this code isn't too complicated, right? Really, it's just creating this iterator variable, having a while loop, and then moving the iter forward. Now, for this example, we're just displaying stuff out here, but you could also do other things. Like, for example, you could be maybe checking to see whether the node or the name of a node is something you're looking for, right? Or you could be incrementing the phone number or setting the phone number to 0 or something else, right? This is just a general technique for visiting every node in a list. All right, so that's all I got for you guys in this video. Hopefully you have a better sense, right, of how you visit every node in a linked list. Moving forward, we'll continue with kind of different manipulations that we can do to a list in C.